Sup, everyone? Welcome to the next episode of the Flea Flicker. We got Joey D over there, and I'm Timmy B. And boy, Joey D, did we have another great week of football. We had some expected wins, we had some not expected wins, and we got some more clarity in the NFL. But Joey D, how are you doing today, my friend?
Tim, I'm doing great. It's been a very great week. Life is good. Cannot
Hmm.
complain about the life of Joey D right now. But yeah, man, it was a really fun week for football. My fantasies did pretty well. Derrick Henry came in clutch on Monday night, needed 27 plus, and this man got me 30 plus. Like, let's go. So I've been feeling good this week, Tim. Life is in Joe's favor at the moment.
Hey, love to hear that, my friend. The Bills Titans game made me some money as well with a nice parlay that I hit. So it seems like that game was a
Excellent.
success for both of us. Yeah, absolutely. But let's just hop right in to the games. Before we get started, make sure you hit that thumbs up button to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It shows Joey D that you love him and you want to see some more Flea Flicker action with us. So, yeah, hit that thumbs up button, like it, subscribe it, bop it, twist it, pull it, fake it. I don't know, flea flicker it. Who knows? But Joe,
Yo, Bop It was a
bop
dope
it.
game.
Bop
Like
it
that
was a
thing
dope
was
game.
dope.
Once they
I
went
had
to
that
like the
growing up.
extreme one where you added
Yeah,
a few
yeah,
more
no,
things.
wow, that was a great pull right there, Tim. You just reached into the recesses of my memory and brought me way back.
Hey, love that to hear that, my friend. Now, Joe, normally we start off with a win when we recap these Sunday games, but the game in London, the Jaguars got their first victory of the season, winning 23-20 over the Miami Dolphins. They kicked the tying field goal late with about 3-4 minutes to go, got the ball back, defense made a stop, and they kicked a 53-yard field goal to win. So very good for the Jaguars to win. I think they're now 500 in London. I think that makes it a 4-4 or 5-5 as I was watching with the game. But this Dolphins team with Tua just doesn't look that. I mean, Tua, like, we'll talk about interceptions going right to the defender in a couple of games with the Ravens, but who was Tua throwing to on that interception? And I mean, if you take that away, still looked okay, but not enough to beat a Jaguars team where this was a game that they should have won pretty convincingly. But Joe, give us your thoughts about the Dolphins struggling still, but also the Jaguars getting their first win.
Yeah, I love it. Like I said this in the pregame for this game. I was picking the Dolphins, but I was rooting for the Jaguars, and it worked out in my favor. I think the right now the Dolphins draft pick is like number 3 overall,
Oh,
number 2 overall,
that
something
makes
like
sense.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're 1-5 right now, and that pick is looking great. But with this game, like you said, Tua, statistically, he had a decent game. He put up
Yeah.
some decent stats, but did he pass the eye test? Was he hitting the throws consistently that he needed to hit? Not really. He fed Jalen Waddle a lot. That was clearly a big part of the game plan, and he showed what he's able to do. He's a dynamic athlete, especially with the ball in his hands. So it's a tough situation for the Dolphins because it doesn't seem like anything is really working on all 3 phases. I mean, this is a defense that has very high expectations, and they couldn't stop Trevor Lawrence and Josh Robinson, or I'm sorry, James Robinson, the Jaguars running back.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just a struggle. It's definitely disappointing for the Dolphins, and a lot of people, I kind of are thinking Brian Flores might be on the hot seat, and that kind of leads us into a little bit of news that has come out today. Tim, did you want to talk about that?
Sure, let's do it.
Well, apparently, I think it's John McCain of the Houston Chronicle, a very well-known reporter and very reliable. What he says and
Sure.
what he reports, pretty much, it's a sure bet. He's reporting today that a deal is in the workings for with the Dolphins and the Texans for Deshaun Watson, and that might be going through this week. If not this week, then definitely by the trade deadline. But this is happening, and it's a very interesting move. I mean, Dolphins are desperate. I don't love it because obviously, if Deshaun goes in, he's an upgrade over Tua. But I don't know if they trade for him and try to play him. Like, will he even be able to? Because he hasn't
Yeah.
been put on the exempt list as of yet. But if they try to play him, that's when Roger Goodell and the NFL kind of would need to step in and do something, and might place him on the exempt list then. So it's a very interesting situation. I don't know if it's a desperate move by the Dolphins with them being 1-5. Um, Maybe the asking price has dropped a little bit, or they're just finally willing to meet it. I'm not really sure. What do you think, Tim? It's an interesting move.
I mean, they've been talking about this for a long
Right.
time, Deshaun to the Dolphins, and I mean, obviously you can have the draft capital but they don't have they don't have the first round picks next season to do it, but they can make it around. I probably the price has dropped a little bit. It is my guess, but it's just speculation, and of course, like very good journalist down there in Houston, and if he's generally right, then maybe he has a scoop. But we've been hearing Deshaun to the Dolphins for the last ever since the lawsuits came up, pretty much, and him being open to trading. So I can see it now as they're struggling a little bit. I don't know if it's an act of desperation, and who knows, man? Because like as I'm looking at their schedule, they have the Falcons this week. Of course, Falcons coming off a bye, but that's a winnable game for the
Yeah.
Dolphins. And
Yeah, I think I saw that they have ranked like the third easiest schedule, like on the remainder of the season. Eagles have the first easiest schedule, by the way. So it's not things aren't as bleak as they might look for the Dolphins, but it's definitely very very disappointing to be where they are right now for a team with high expectations after the last few years.
yeah, no, absolutely. So we'll just see. I mean, we'll talk about the Texans, and we'll talk about that in the trade deadline that's coming up in a couple of weeks. It seems like that there will be a couple of trades this year, so we'll only see. And then credit to the Jaguars. I mean, they kind of came back a little bit. I mean, Dolphins went up early, went up pretty quickly. Jaguars did claw their way back, so good for them. But again, probably one of their only one or two wins this season. And speaking of those Texans, Joe, your suicide pick for this week, the Indianapolis Colts and Carson Wentz, handled business 31-3 against the Texans. Again, they look good. The offense seemed to have been clicking like they were Monday night against the Ravens a couple of weeks ago. So maybe some good things. And bad news for you, Joe, is that the Colts hurt the first round draft position, and the Titans won. I guess continuing the same lead that they had in the division. But hey, you're playing the Texans. You should win 31-3, and the Colts did win 31-3.
Absolutely. And Tim, this was actually how I hoped this game would go because with while the Dolphins pick, no matter what happens, it's not
It's
conditional. It'll
still
be their
yours. It's
first
still
round pick.
yours. Yeah. Mhm.
But if the Colts were continuing to snowball and Wentz was not looking good, and then they felt like it makes the most sense to bench him and preserve the pick. That's when I have the concerns there. Right now, we're in that middle ground where Wentz is looking good.
Yeah.
They're still in contention. They got this win over the Texans, a convincing win, and Wentz played very well. So, it's this is what the Eagles needed for sure. But it was a great game by Carson Wentz. He got T.Y. Hilton back and was hitting him deep. Getting him involved with the game plan. Colts defense really showed up. Only allowed 3 points, forced a couple turnovers. It's they're just a better team overall. I mean, from top to bottom between talent and coaching, culture. It's a better organization than the Texans, and the final score reflected that. So I don't think there's really a lot that needs to be said, but you know, Texans gotta figure out something because just treading water right now, and hoping for to get through this season and get the first overall pick maybe is like kind of what they're hoping for. But it's like, who are we even looking forward to right
Right.
now? Spencer Rattler just got benched and he was the consensus number one QB coming out of this draft, and now he's looking like not so great. Um, so I just don't know what the Texans plan is here, and hopefully this Deshaun Watson drama can kind of get cleared up soon, and we can have a little bit of a better idea of what the game plan is moving forward.
Yeah, whether they trade him or maybe they release him for some of the legal stuff that he's going through, they trade him. Either way, I think before the next draft, should they have the number one pick or number two or a very early pick, I think we'll have an answer by then. Of course, by April, or we hope so. But God knows in the NFL with the Texans. But going on the Colts side too, Joe, and this is going to be a roller coaster for Eagles fans because their next two games are the 49ers and Titans, a game that they have lost already with the Titans, as well as the 49ers, a team that they could easily lose to. But then it gets easier. They have the Jets and the Jaguars, and then they have the Bills and the Buccaneers. So it's like they have two games that could be losing 2 games that they should be winning, 2 games that they should be, it's going to be a roller coaster of
And that's
events.
perfect. That's
Yeah,
perfect. I mean, we're not expecting the Colts to be, a have a top 10 draft pick and be one of the worst teams. A
right.
lot of people expecting them to be a playoff team. So, then it would be a high first round pick. Or, if Wentz is injured, which a lot of people going into the season were, myself included, very concerned about, then it'd be a second round pick. So a top 15 pick, like I'm totally fine with that for the Colts, especially if this Dolphins pick ends up being as high as it's looking like it will. Because I mean, the Eagles draft pick is probably going to be pretty decent as well. I'd say it's probably going to be around number 10 if I had to guess right now.
Yeah, the only concern would be that they do play the Titans for a second time next, not this weekend, but next weekend. So should they lose to the 49ers, should they lose to the Titans, and the Titans play the Chiefs this week, so certainly a tough matchup as well. But if they win both of those games, you're looking at the Titans who are 6-2, the Colts who are 2-6, with the Titans sweeping the Colts. So maybe who we don't know. I mean, but that's why we
Right.
play the game show. So it's going to be a roller coaster. And yeah, you said it, even if they bench him and they don't do as well, it's still an early second round pick. I mean, there's still a lot of value in the top 40 45 picks in the draft.
And it's
So
also like, I mean, he's playing well right now, and they're still, they still have this record, what, 2-4 right now. So I mean, he could still play well, and they lose
absolutely.
those games just because. I mean, we've talked about it, what they have on offense around him. I mean, at receiver and tight end, it's really not great. The offensive line isn't as elite. Jonathan Taylor is doing a lot right now, but when he doesn't have a great game, then the Colts don't win. So, it's tough for me to see them benching him and fracturing that relationship for the long term when, they invested a high draft pick in him one way or the other and took on his contract. So, they've still invested resources in him. And, if they bench him just to preserve that pick, then I think that would fracture the relationship with a player whose ego we know is already
Yeah.
very fragile.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean,
I just don't see it.
we also have to consider that it's 12 games basically that he needs to play. I can see them, maybe putting in Sam Ellinger in the final 2 games or something like that, but certainly not for the last 6 games of the 5, 6 games of the season. So
Right.
definitely week 17, week 18. Sure, let's see what you have in the nice young Sam Ellinger. Preserve Carson Wentz, who gets a little bit injured from time to time, needless to say. So, but yeah, that 12 games, that's a lot. Now, if they're 2-10, sure, maybe I can see it then. But that's for a couple months down the road when we get to that
We're
point.
almost there.
Yeah,
We're
I know.
we 6 weeks through. We're 50% of the way.
I know, Joe. Don't tell us.
Let's
uh,
go.
But now moving on to the next game, the Kitty Cat Bowl, one of the few Kitty Cat Bowls that could happen in the NFL. Bengals defeat the Lions 34-11, kind of as expected, given the Lions' defense as well. Cincinnati having a stingy defense as well. And again, this could have been like what the Ravens Lions would have been if Hollywood Brown caught those touchdown passes. Instead, the Bengals wide receivers caught them, but they win 34-11. Get another win for the Bengals here. Now they're in sole possession of second place in the AFC North. Potentially could have first place with the matchup with the Ravens this weekend. So, Joe, Bengals seem to be clicking and maybe doing a little bit better than we might have expected. Are you kind of buying into that, or do you still think this might be a 6, 7, maybe 8 win team and still have room for growth for the couple of seasons?
I think I'm buying into it a little bit, but I'm still leaning more towards they're a year or two out.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, with the way that they handled the Lions, it wasn't a
Right.
close game at all. They dominated in all three phases throughout all four quarters. They they did not relinquish that lead. They did not, have their foot off the gas at all. So,
Hmm.
it was a very strong win from a Bengals team that doesn't usually have wins like that. You know, going up against usually they're the inferior opponent that opponents are beating up on and trying to be like this is a get right week for us. So for them to do that against the Lions in such a convincing fashion, I think that really is an encouraging sign. I mean, you see Jamar Chase clicking, Uzoma, having a really good year. Joe Mixon going off. I mean, did you see that block Jamar Chase threw on
That
Joe
was a nice
Mixon's
block.
run?
Yeah, that was a
That
good
was
block.
awesome. That was awesome. Who needs Penny Sewell, right? So, I'm very impressed with what I've seen out of the Bengals. This week I think will be such a huge game, and even if it's a competitive game, then I think that says so much about the Bengals' growth, and maybe we undersold Zach Taylor a little bit.
We as in you. And then I agreed
Hey,
with
yeah,
you.
I don't think that I don't. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't remember you pounding the table for Zach Taylor.
No, but we'll definitely talk about that. Certainly, I got some stats as they're playing the Ravens. We'll do that when we make our picks. But yeah, I mean, just total domination, and it's nice seeing. I mean, Captain America, Chris Evans scored a touchdown. We're seeing Uzuma, Auden Tate. So they did it. I mean, Mixon had a touchdown, but they had three touchdowns from guys who you don't think of. You would think of T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and all these wide receivers.
Tyler
But to see
Boyd, yeah,
to see some of that fourth, fifth wide receiver, the tight end, the backup tight end getting these touchdowns, it's huge for the offense. And Lions still need some work, but hey, you know what? If they have the number one pick next year, who knows what they do? Maybe they trade to the Eagles.
yeah.
I don't know. Like,
I don't know. Tim, what'd you think of Dan Campbell calling out Jared Goff? What do you say? Like he's gotta step up, like
yeah,
do
I
more.
mean, I like it. I mean, that's kind of what you
He's
expect from a
right.
head coach. He is right. I mean, Jared Goff. I mean, yes, it was McVay. Yes, they did have that defense, but Jared Goff went 13-3 and went to the Super Bowl. So we know that he is capable of winning football games and putting it on his back. I mean, now given, I mean, yes,
I don't know about that. I don't think he's ever put it on his back. At his best, it was when Sean McVay was calling at his best, and they had Todd Gurley, and the defense was playing well.
right.
I
But
mean,
there were some
Jared
games
Goff
where
was he was
where
managing.
but there were some games where he would get to close to 400 yards, couple of touchdowns. And again, yes, it was the play calling, but we have seen Jared Goff be
Right.
successful in the NFL. And so we'll see. And I think it's just the pieces around the Lions, too. I mean, they have a great tight
Exactly.
end in Hawkinson, and their wide receivers are just kind of So it's like,
I mean, they're worse than I think they're probably the worst in the NFL. I
that's
mean,
fair.
straight up. Like I like the Eagles wide receivers better than that, and I don't like the Eagles wide receivers.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. But still, I mean,
know,
it's Jared, like they still need to step up a little bit, but then it's also not good when you see DeAndre Swift 13 carries for 24 yards. I mean, you got to get the running
right.
game going as well, especially when you do draft Panay Sewell to be that guy on the offensive line. So, I mean, if anything, was just telling the Lions that, hey, like, yes, you do have golf, yes, you do have Dan Campbell, but you also need ABC, XYZ at other positions and everything like that. So we'll see. Unfortunately, it's not the Lions year this year. Could be the Bengals year. We'll find out. Staying in the NFC North, Joe, we had the Green Bay Packers defeating the Chicago Bears 24-10. Aaron Rodgers still owns the Chicago Bears, as we have found out, scoring that late go-ahead touchdown to go up 10 points. Didn't hate what I saw from the Bears. I mean, they went up 7-0. They kept Aaron Rodgers a little bit contained, at least keeping it a close score. But at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers, he does what Rodgers does against the Bears, and he pulls out the win, moves the ball down the field, and yeah, I guess some Bears fans were a little bit angry, and he said, "I own you." So congratulations to Aaron Rodgers for owning an NFL team. Good for him. But Joe, thoughts on this Packers Bears game?
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot. Aaron Rodgers is, still playing at an extremely high level. Devontae Adams had a great game. Aaron Jones is having another great year. They're getting AJ Dillon, the other running back
Yeah.
involved. Is that
Hmm.
right? And just all three phases are playing very well for them right now. We were concerned about Jair Alexander not being there, and the Bears being able to kind of take advantage of that with Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney. We didn't really see a lot of that. Justin Fields didn't do that much in this game.
We did
Um,
see Allen Robinson pretty wide open. I shared that
we
with you.
did,
Oh
we
my
did,
goodness.
yes,
Woo-hoo.
yes, and I had him in my lineup.
Same.
I
Yeah, I
fortunately,
needed it.
I
I needed
fortunately
it.
won that. I won the game that I had him in my lineup, but I would have been pretty upset if I saw that after I had lost. Um, but Justin, and that's something that I've been paying more attention to as like an Eagles fan, paying attention
Hmm.
to Jalen Hurts and his growth, and is he the guy or not? It's not just about all the plays that you make. It's sometimes about the plays that you leave on the field and you don't make. There have been many times I've seen people going wide open, and Jalen Hurts has run when there's no pressure, or thrown it somewhere else because he just wasn't looking there, and it's very frustrating. And these guys, Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes, Brady, they identify when that guy is there, and they exploit it and take advantage of it every time. And when you leave those plays on the field, it can be backbreaking. So it's definitely not what you want to see if you're a Bears fan and you're buying stock in Justin Fields. But he's still young. He's still in very early for his career. And it's a very good Green Bay Packers team that they went up against. I mean, we we kind of wrote them off at some point. Maybe after week one. But Aaron Rodgers is still there, and they're always going to be a contender with Aaron Rodgers playing like he is.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was definitely a key that I've also been watching with some young quarterbacks as well, where it seems like they're just saying, "Hey, you throw it to this guy. If he's not open, do this." Where it's like you need to go 1, 2. You need to do all of your checks and everything like that. So we'll see. I think Justin Fields will see that. I'm sure that they will say, "Hey, Allen Robinson is still on this team for now. That'll definitely be changing, but." You got to make that throw to make it a game and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, looking at it, Khalil Herbert, basically 100 yards, 97 on the ground with a touchdown. Darnell
Yep.
Mooney scoring, Allen Robinson. So they are moving the football. And Justin Fields didn't have that terrible of a game. 16 for 27, a buck 75, touchdown, and a pick. Certainly, I mean, at least he's completing passes, not for long, kind of like Mac Jones. But hey, they're moving the ball, and I'm seeing some promising things as long as Matt Nagy is not the one calling the plays. And you just said it, Joe. I mean, it's Aaron Rodgers. Like, they're always going to be a contender. They're always going to beat these teams like the Bears and the Lions and all that stuff. So that's just what they do. So Packers are now 5-1. Bears are 3-3. So definitely not out yet, especially when you do play the Lions a couple of times and even the Vikings. So definitely a fun classic game. And the next team we have on the schedule, Joe talked about, not much I really have to say. Rams defeat the Giants 38-11. Giants went up 3-0. They were winning 3-0, and then it was 28-3 at halftime. The Rams scored 4 touchdowns in the second quarter, go on to win 38-11. Scorigami in the NFL. I believe it's our first scorigami of the
Very
year.
nice.
But yeah, I mean, well, basically what we just said, this Rams team is going to do that to a Giants team.
That's right, and we saw bad Daniel Jones today. We hadn't really seen that much yet this year to, the degree we had before, but we absolutely did see that on Sunday against this Rams defense. I mean, this is what we were concerned about going into this game. I mean, the
Yeah.
matchup with this defensive line, Aaron Donald against this offensive line, and no Saquon, receivers are banged up. It's not a great situation for the Giants, especially going up against that defense. And they really just took advantage all day long. This was a big game for Daniel Jones. If he had been able to put together a really good game and potentially get a win out of this, that would have been huge for his stock. But to really crumble like he did, in this game and just kind of spiral out of control, turnover after turnover. I mean, you can't have that. You got to be mentally tough to succeed in this league and have a short memory. And I just don't see it with Daniel Jones. So the Giants are also in a position with the Eagles where they have multiple first round picks, and they'll be looking to make a move one way or the other this year. So I think that his leash is very short, and this game could be a deciding factor for Daniel Jones this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said it in our picks, and you said it as well. This is a get right game for the Rams defense, and they got right. 3 interceptions, a fumble with Daniel Jones, actually 2 forced fumbles. One of them was recovered by the Giants. So 4 turnovers, 4 sacks. They get right. Looking at their schedule as well, their next 2 games are the Lions and the Texans. So more get right games for this Rams defense. We know the offense is there, but they got the Lions and the Texans to get right before they get Derrick Henry, then they get Kyle Shanahan and Aaron Rodgers and Kyler Murray again. So a solid couple of games stretch for this Rams defense to bounce back. They're already off to a good start. And yep, Giants are bad. Not really much to say there, Joe. So sorry to James and Sawyer and any of our other friends who are Giants listeners. You guys suck. I don't know what else to say. Um, Now,
It's a
Joe,
tough
a
time being a New
game.
York fan.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, obviously. But now a game that you you almost convinced me to go opposite with you in this one, and I should have, as the Vikings defeat the Panthers in overtime 34-28. This game was kind of boring to start. Panthers clawed their way back, came back, forced overtime, and then the Vikings, did what they did in the first half, first three quarters, and put it away in the game. So we're both at 5-2 right now. I could have been six. You even said it and toward the
I
end. You were like,
tried.
"Are you sure you don't want to do it?" And I was like, "No, I'm a Panthers believer." But that is dwindling away pretty fast, as I was saying, even on Saturday with our picks. But yeah, I mean, Vikings went up. Like I said, it was 20-7. Second quarter, half. I mean, but Panthers. Oh, I'm looking at the Arizona one. Sorry, my bad. Let's click on
Oh,
the
10.
Panthers game. But yeah, I mean, it was 28-17. 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Panthers got the field goal to get it in eight. Robbie Anderson scored a touchdown. There we go. Robbie Anderson scored a touchdown, and KJ Osborne just Panthers didn't even have the ball at overtime, but those are the rules. But Joe, Vikings win. Kirk Cousins had a great game. Your thoughts?
Yeah, Adam Thielen balled out. That was fun to watch. I traded for him recently, so you love to see that. Um, this I think that the biggest thing is Sam Darnold, man. I mean,
Hmm.
this is a guy who in the past has gotten rattled, turned the ball over a lot, sees ghosts, and struggles to move the ball. We saw really good Sam Darnold at the beginning of the year, but it seems like maybe Sam Darnold's best as a game manager, and things need to be going
Yeah,
well for him. Props to him and the Panthers for clawing back and making it a game. But he turned the ball over multiple times this game. Missed throws, and you just can't do that consistently and win in the NFL. So it's tough that they didn't get the chance to win and get the ball in overtime. But they put themselves in this position by just really helping the Vikings defense start to get right. Forcing some turnovers, playing some Mike Zimmer football. And I know he loves to see that, but a good game overall by the Vikings. Except for kind of letting the Panthers claw their way back in there and come letting it come down to a coin flip. It's unfortunate that that's sometimes the way a game is dependent on the outcome for it. But those are the rules. So what are you gonna do?
yeah, yeah, and I think the big thing is the Panthers defense. Yes, they have been injured a little bit, especially with J.C. Horn, the first round pick out of South Carolina, but haven't been as good. I mean, 570 yards to Kirk Cousins. Delvin Cook had about a buck 50 and a touchdown. Thielen went off. Everybody was getting the ball. Everybody was getting yards. Now, yes, taking it with the grain of salt. The Panthers' first three games: Jets, Saints, Texans, but still, again, that defense didn't look good, and the Vikings, did what a veteran team does. Panthers still banged out. McCaffrey still on the IR, and you said it. Sam Darnold is a game manager. He's not going to win many games himself, but I mean, the Panthers just didn't put Sam Darnold in a position to manage that game. I mean, if you can't
Right.
stop him, there's really no stopping. But hey, good news for the Panthers is they have the Giants and then the Falcons. So hopefully they should. Keyword is should, Joe. Keyword is should. They should be able to get
Should.
right. And the Vikings' schedule gets a little bit tougher now, as we mentioned. They still have the Packers. They got the Ravens coming up, the Steelers. So definitely a game that the Vikings needed to win, especially if they do want to hang around and party, because that could be short lived. Now we're heading on to the Kansas City Chiefs and the football team. Chiefs win 31-13. A great second half performance from that Chiefs offense. Football team was winning in the second half. I think it was like 13-7, 13-10. And Mahomes did Mahomes things, moved the ball down the field, ran around the pocket a little bit, found those open wide receivers after the play broke. And Chiefs do again what the Chiefs did, but still, I know the football team was winning. They only put up 13 points, but the Chiefs still just don't look like the Chiefs the
Yeah.
past couple of years. And I think that's still the biggest takeaway. And now they're at Tennessee this week. So it's not like you're playing the Jets this week. And it's like, all right, cool, never mind. We're playing the Jets or Texans. They got another tough matchup in a game that they could lose. Joe, what were your thoughts from the football team, the Chiefs?
Yeah, it was a close game in the first half. I mean, the Chiefs drove down the field twice and got into the red zone, and Washington was able to force turnovers in the red zone more than once. And that was really the key for Washington to be able to win this game. But unfortunately, they just were not able to capitalize on those turnovers and score points. I didn't see Terry McLaurin really do all that much this game. This is a poor Chiefs defense that has been, terrible all year. This should have been a big Terry McLaurin game. I know that Antonio Gibson went down with the shin injury, so I'm sure that affected the game plan. But you still got to get the ball to your playmakers, and when Terry McLaurin isn't, getting the ball a lot in a game like this where you have to score points, and this is a bad defense you're going up against
Yeah.
once again. You've got to force feed him the ball, and just take the risk, take the shot. You're not going to win games playing conservatively against the Chiefs. So Washington, I just don't think their offense can, really support the defense, even when the defense does play well. Defense allowed 31 points, but I think that they played a little bit better than the score dictated. Um, but like you said, Chiefs don't look the same. They really don't. Tyreek Hill's got this quad injury. Mahomes turned the ball over more, and defense is still suspect. So, they definitely got to figure some stuff out because right now they don't look like the top team in the AFC.
No, they don't, Joe. But I think that they got Andy Reid as the coach. They have Steve Spagnuolo as the D coordinator. So they do have the coaching. They do have that veteran presence. They still have Patrick Mahomes and company on that offense. So we'll see. There's still to be determined. But now the team that is leading the AFC West and the Los Angeles Chargers. Well, Joe, they came into Baltimore and the Ravens dominated, winning 34-6. This is the one game I am +1 on you for the week. So slow and steady wins the race in our final season prediction standings. So yeah, Joe, this was a dominating performance. We went down the field, went up 7-0, 3-and-out. Justin Herbert couldn't do anything. The only points were from an interception where, hey, look, I do that sometimes in Madden. I don't see that linebacker, but hey, it was accurate to the linebacker. It was right at him. But just dominating performance from the Ravens, both offensively and defensively. Devonta Freeman, Le'Veon Bell, Latavius Murray all scored a touchdown. Who would have thought that back in August, especially for the same team? So yeah, we dominated. Chargers are also big on analytics, but they went for it on fourth down on their own 19, which was a little bit interesting. And then they threw it at Marlon Humphrey, one of the best, bless you, one of the best defensive backs in the league. So interesting choices there, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Ravens win 34-6. Joe, your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I was very surprised with some of the calls from Brandon Staley in this game. I think they went for it on fourth down more than once in their own
They did,
territory,
yeah.
if I'm
One
not
was like the
mistaken. And they went
45.
after Marlon Humphrey both times,
Yeah,
right?
one of them was like on their own 40, 45. So that one I could understand a little bit, but I think the one on the 19, it was like 4th and 1 and they threw a pass. Like that it was like shotgun, like all that stuff. And it's like
Yeah.
when you have a guy like Justin Herbert who's like 6'6", when you have a running back like Austin Eckler and you only need 1 or 2 yards, why are you throwing a curl route to Mike yeah.
Yeah,
So
especially against Marlon Humphrey,
right.
So I was very surprised with the with some of those calls. All year when they've made those calls, they've gone their way. So it was bound to bite them in the butt eventually. And it just all kind of did on Sunday. Between the defense not being able to stop anyone, the offense consistently turning the ball over, not getting it on third down, having to punt, going for it, not getting it. It was as bad a performance that the Chargers could have put up, and as dominating a performance as the Ravens could. So it was shocking. I really thought it was going to be a really good game. I think it speaks to the Ravens right now. I've said it a couple times now. I've got like really like positive vibes about the Ravens, finding different ways to win, these games that, you know, I would have expected this game, the way that this game went and the way the game the week before against the Colts went to be flip flopped.
Mhm.
That game should have been the one that was really close and went to overtime, while this one, or yeah, you know what I mean, Tim. You know what I
Yeah.
mean.
No, it felt
But
good being in the stadium, and it
yeah,
was nice that we could relax for most of the second half and the fourth quarter. But one thing I did notice, Joe, I was sitting about 2, 3 rows behind the Chargers bench, and we see this a lot when you see quarterbacks on the bench like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. They're looking at the tablet, they're looking at it. Justin Herbert was not. He was standing up with his helmet on almost the entire time. Now, of course, I'm sure people, the coaches are talking to him in the headset, but he wasn't sitting on the bench looking at the tablet or those sheets to kind of see any looks or anything like that. So that's something that really surprised me, especially for such a young quarterback. And again, helmet was on, so I'm sure people were talking to him in the headset, but just having that tablet just sitting there for like that one drive or two just to see like different looks or whatever. I'm surprised that he didn't do that.
Yeah, no, it was a very, very uncharacteristically poor performance from the Chargers out of this year, but, they definitely looked like the Chargers of old, so it's very disappointing, that they just couldn't even compete, in a game like this after beating a team like the
Mhm.
Chiefs, just playing such good football week in and week out, and then just not showing up on Sunday, it's very, very disappointing, and I'm now I don't know what to think of the Chargers at
Yeah,
all.
well, and this is what I was saying earlier that we got some more clarity. Chargers beat the Chiefs. Yes, Chiefs don't look, like the Chiefs this year. They're struggling a little bit.
Right.
They lost to the Cowboys, who look like a legit team. We'll talk about their game in a couple of minutes. But it's like then you beat the Browns last week in a shootout. But then it's like the Browns don't look like the Browns that we all kind of expected this year. So it's like not saying that the Chargers aren't a bad team, but going into last week, we are all like, this is the best team in the AFC, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, all right, well, they beat the Chiefs who are struggling a little bit. They beat the Browns who are, injured and struggling a little bit. And then on the Ravens side as well, it was nice that we are finding ways to win. Big matchup against the Bengals before we go into the bye week, and then we get 2 weeks to prepare for Kirk Cousins, Joe. So
Oh, no, you need it.
yeah, apparently they almost
Everybody
600 yards.
does.
Yeah, everybody does. But yes, Ravens win. Excited to see your thoughts of us playing the Bengals in our picks episode to check out. Now moving to the 4 o'clock slate and a team that I just mentioned, the Cleveland Browns. They hosted Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. No Cliff Kingsbury. We both picked the Browns, Joe, and that was a mistake on our part as the Cardinals just
Big
go in
time.
37-14. DeAndre Hopkins was wide open, just a dominating performance from this Cardinals offense against the Browns defense. And the Browns offense, like they only, I mean, aside from that Hail Mary to end the first half, they scored 7 points. Baker, obviously, with his non throwing shoulder, is an issue. He's out for Thursday night's game that we'll pick. But man, like, again, the Cardinals are undefeated. They're good. The Browns, so like, Joe, what's happening in Cleveland?
Tim, these Browns are really injured, man. I feel for the Brownies after, seeing the Eagles go through all the injuries that they do. I mean, they had both of their starting tackles out. Nick Chubb was out, and then Kareem Hunt goes down. OBJ is already banged up. Jarvis Landry's not playing. Baker's banged up, and now he's been ruled out for Thursday's game against Denver. It's a tough situation in Cleveland overall. I mean, it's hard to come back from that many injuries, but you know, props to the Cardinals really because no Cliff Kingsbury and they really just showed up in all three phases regardless. Um, and it's tough for the Browns. There are a lot of very high expectations for them, and it's now it's murky. Like, is Baker not the guy? Do we not extend him? Is it because of all these injuries? What's the truth about the Browns now? So it's a very tough situation for them. Um, and like I said, there were high expectations, and this is a team that nearly made it to the Super Bowl last year. They just had to beat Chad Henne, and they weren't able to.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of speaks to where the Browns are. If you're not able to beat Chad Henne and make it to the Super Bowl, you probably don't deserve to be there.
Yeah, and again, as I was just saying with the Chargers, week one, they went up very quickly against the Chiefs. And the Chiefs did claw back, but everybody's like, okay, Browns. Like we even said it on our show. We said Browns will win the rematch in January. Well, that might not be the case. There might not be a rematch between the Browns and Chiefs, Joe. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, they're banged up, they're injured. I think in terms of Baker as well, and I'm not putting him in the same conversation as Jared Goff, but you see all the talent that they have surrounded Baker Mayfield with Odell and Jarvis and Chubb and Kareem Hunt and all that stuff. So obviously, I think Baker is way better than Jared Goff. But you're starting to see when those pieces aren't there or the offensive line isn't there, you know, Baker doesn't look as dominant as he did in college, winning the Heisman and everything. So I think there is a conversation to have about that. We can save that for another day. And credit to the Browns, they gave him all that support and all those pieces. So not too many quarterbacks would look pretty bad with those weapons when healthy, of course. But I mean, I think the story is the Browns' defense of this game. They were dominating. I mean, Miles Garrett and Clowney on the defensive line, but when you're playing DeAndre Hopkins, you should probably cover him, Joe, and they didn't do that.
Yeah, you would think, but with this Cardinals offense, there are so many weapons left and right. I
Mhm.
mean, AJ Green is having a really good
Rondale
season.
Moore having a good season as well.
Rondale Moore, Christian Kirk, catching touchdowns left and right. I think he had one or two in this game. Um, and then you have DeAndre Hopkins. It's crazy how many receivers that they have, and then Chase Edmonds and James Conner and Kyler Murray, who's a threat on the ground as well. So they've just got so many weapons and are doing such a good job distributing it. The play call is outstanding, and I from what I understand, Kyler Murray did a lot of checks himself at the line of scrimmage and really, kind of called a lot of this game on his own at the line. So that's huge, man. Like
Right.
Kyler Murray's having an MVP season, and the Cardinals really are looking like contenders. I mean, how many teams can you say can have their head coach not be there for a game and they win in convincing fashion against a team that just went to the AFC Championship last year?
Yeah, I mean, the Browns, their wild card game against the Steelers, they didn't have Stefanski because he tested positive, and they dominated a playoff game
That's
on
right.
the road.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, there's only few and far between. I mean, if like the Dolphins didn't have their coach, they I would just forfeit. I'd be like, we're
exactly.
not winning this one. But yeah, Cardinals still look legit. Browns still need a little bit of work. We'll pick their game in for Thursday night in a second. Joe, another shocker, back-to-back shocker series. The Raiders, without John Gruden, first game without John Gruden, go into Denver and win 34-24. That puts you at 6-5. Myself at 7-4. But Joe, just a dominating performance from the Raiders. This game was never a doubt. It wasn't like they had to come back and kick a last second field goal or whatever. They went into Denver with a plan and they executed and they dominated. And I mean, Denver, yes, we have talked about Giants, Jaguars, Jets as their first three games, but this is the game Denver probably should have won, and they didn't. I mean, interim head coach, just absolute domination. So, Joe, thoughts on this Raiders Broncos game?
Yeah, I mean, really props to the Raiders
Yeah.
for rallying together after a really tough week with, so much distraction and just focusing on the task at hand and what's ahead of them. I mean, they're what, 4-2 right now? They're
The
still
Raiders are 4-2. Yeah.
yeah, they're still right in the thick of it. And, this is obviously very unfortunate and, unforeseen circumstance for them. But, like I said, everything is right ahead of them right now. They've had a great start to the year. They've played some really good football. And, if they can just continue to rally, around each other, and just focus on one game at a time, then, this is a team that can be, maybe I think could maybe sneak in as a playoff team, which would be an amazing story. But unfortunately, the road's going to get tough for them this week with their opponent. So we'll see about that. We'll have to rain on their parade a little bit. But major concerns for the Broncos. I mean, this is a Vic Fangio. You're a defensive coach. You've spent all these resources on the defense, and you
Mhm.
can't stop Derek Carr and the Raiders offense. Darren Waller didn't even have like an insane game. This was Henry Ruggs, the unstoppable former Gamecock Brian Edwards, baller. It was a tough situation for the Broncos, and I think that Vic Fangio might be on the hot seat. Depending on how the rest of the season goes. I mean, if all you're doing is beating up on the bad teams and you can't hang with the big boys, then like what good
Yeah.
are you? What are you doing?
No, totally agree with you. And we even said it like this one could come down to the turnover battle, which is why we picked the Broncos. What was the opposite? The Raiders forced four turnovers, got the ball in some good field position, and they executed. That's what they did. You score when you get the ball back, and And Teddy Bridgewater still, I mean, aside from those interceptions, I mean, he threw 49 times, but over 300 yards, a couple of touchdowns as well. But yeah, Broncos, Vic Fangio's on the hot seat. And again, we'll pick the game in a couple minutes, Joe. But this might be a must win for them given their situation. We'll talk about that in a second. Back to back overtime games that we'll be talking about next up. The other 4 o'clock game, the final one that we're going to be talking about. Cowboys go into New England, win 35-29 in overtime. Again, a game where we kind of said Bill Belichick, he's going to come up with a game plan, and he kind of did. I mean, whatever. Trayvon Diggs, your boy, he got a pick six, and then the next play got burned. So I think Joe witnessed the pick six one, and unfortunately could not experience the other Trayvon Diggs that
I
we saw.
did. I did see that.
Oh, did you now?
Come on, Tim. Of course I did.
Alrighty. Well, yeah, but again,
Bill Belichick is playing chess while everyone's playing checkers. Throws the pick six to Trayvon Diggs and then runs a double move on him, knowing that he'll jump and hits him deep for a 75-yard touchdown. It's chess. Bill
yeah,
Belichick's the master.
hey,
Just came down to a coin flip once again. Cowboys, lucky sons of bitches.
it came down to a coin flip for sure. But then again, you look at and we say Bill Belichick this, Bill Belichick that. Still gave up 570 yards. Now, of course, the Cowboys' offense, that's their strong suit. You got Dak Prescott, all these weapons for sure. So they did their job, just totally dominated the Patriots. But the Patriots defense did get a couple of those key turnovers when the time called. They were able to get points off of that to go up 21-20. Then the interception return did not get the 2 points. So then they go up three. But at the end of the day, Dak Prescott with all these weapons, he should be moving the ball rather quickly to kick the tying field goal and to score in overtime. CeeDee Lamb seems like the real deal for anybody who maybe wanted to draft him, along Justin Jefferson and all that stuff.
I can't think of anyone who would.
Yeah, I don't know what team wouldn't want them on their team. But again, I think this was going to be a classic game. I mean, I don't think either of us really said that like this would be dominating. I mean, we saw what the Patriots did with the Buccaneers, but Patriots are 0-4 at home, Joe. That's not good. Good news, they got the Jets this week at home, so should be 1-4. But Joe, some more thoughts on the Cowboys Patriots game?
Yeah, I really felt like the Patriots defense did a little bit better as well than the score and the stats might have dictated. I mean, we they were moving the ball, but they did hold them to a couple field goals in the red zone and forced a good bit of turnovers. And then they were able to capitalize off the turnovers as well. I mean, this Patriots team is not very talented, and there's no reason why Mac Jones and Jacoby Myers should be able to keep up with this Dallas offense with all these
Mhm.
horses.
Yeah,
So, it wasn't a great game for Dallas, and they still managed to win. So, that's
sure.
something good,
Right.
I guess, for Dallas. They don't have their best game, and, they still find a way to win. But, when you face more talented teams, that's just not going to happen. So, when you face the Buccaneers and you play like that, it's not going to happen. So we'll see what happens as the season goes on. I'm still not sweating the Cowboys too much because it's only a matter of time, Timothy.
Hey, it is, and obviously it's not hard in the NFC East. The Cowboys should be making the playoffs. How far will they go? That's to be determined, Joe. Now we're moving
One
on.
and done.
One and done. Yeah, probably. I
I'll tell
mean,
you
with
already.
with the NFC East, if you get that number, 2 or 3 seed, you're still playing a team maybe like the Rams or the 49er, so it's gonna be a tough one, whoever the Cowboys do get in week one, wild card weekend of the playoffs for sure. So hopefully one and done. Um, let's see. Now Sunday Night Football, like I just said, another overtime game. Steelers defeat the Seahawks in overtime, 23-20. They went up 14-0 in the second quarter. First quarter was pretty bland. Steelers go up. Everybody thought, all right, Geno Smith, game over. Geno Smith clawed his way back, and we said it that Thursday night game against the Rams. He went on a 99-yard drive. Aside from his one fumble in overtime, which really wasn't his fault, it was just TJ Watt doing TJ Watt things and punching it out. I mean, 200 yards, a touchdown. Alex Collins, 100 yards and touchdowns. The Seahawks offense is capable with Geno Smith for sure. But at the end of the day, it came down to overtime and turnovers. TJ Watt forced the turnover against Geno Smith to put the Steelers in field goal range. Couple of kneel downs, kick the field goal. Steelers do win. But yeah, there was some an interesting call for the Seahawks field goal. DK Metcalf throws it on the sideline. He slips a tackle and he goes, "You know what? Let me try to score a touchdown." Then he fumbles the ball. They recover it. They get the spike off. I believe they spiked it with 1 second left and the clock did run, so they were still would have been 1 second for sure. But then they decided to review the play, which gave the Seahawks a little bit of a breather. Were able to set up the field goal more comfortably than had they not reviewed it. And they had 1 second, then everybody run out to go kick it. So either way, Steelers still pull out the win. Joe, what were your thoughts from Sunday Night Football?
Yeah, I think it just kind of speaks to how poor the Steelers are.
Hmm.
You know, we've we've talked about, how this offensive line, this offense in general is just, not what it once was. And, is really, a very one of the worst, I'd say, in the league outside of Najee Harris. It's really the only bright spot to speak of. Um, and to go up against a Seahawks team without Russell Wilson and, to have to go into overtime and, rely on a TJ Watt forced fumble in overtime to win, you know, like this is again, like you
And
said,
game could have been
Geno Smith
over.
did not. It
Jamal
could
Adams had a pick
exactly.
six, and he just
That's right.
did not catch it.
How about when he did his intro and said, "I'm the best in the league,"
And then
and it showed like
it
his
was like PFF grade. It
PFF.
was like 62 out of like 74 or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I love it. And then he just gets hit in the face with the football.
Yeah,
So love that you paid that man, right, Seattle?
right.
Um, but so I just think that, with Geno Smith, he didn't really play that bad of a game. Like, he had a somewhat decent game for the expectations. Alex Collins, kind of same thing. This Steelers defense is supposed to be their strength. This is supposed to be, you know, the Seahawks are supposed to be Russell Wilson. That's pretty much it. And, you still let them take it overtime and, barely won. So, I'm just not impressed with the Steelers at all. I'm a little bit more impressed with the Seahawks for, having it such a close game with Geno Smith. And, I think Pete Carroll still is a pretty good head coach, for all of his flaws. And, Mike Tomlin is as well, but this is not a good football team. And it's
Yeah,
not a great game. I did not watch all of it.
yeah, and it's unfortunate for the Seahawks as well. Is that they're in a tough division. So if they were in a division like the NFC East or maybe the AFC South, there's still a chance with Geno Smith. But when you have the undefeated Cardinals, the 5-1 Rams, even a Kyle Shanahan team, it's definitely tough for the Seahawks. And we talked about that in our preview. I think I had them last, but I'm like, this team's still going to get 8 or 9 wins. That's just given the
Right.
division that they're in. But now moving on to Monday Night Football, Joe, to end off the Week 6 recap. Titans defeat the Bills 34-31. That leaves you at 8-6 for the week. I went 9-5 as the buys have started, so +1 for me. I needed that, and slow and steady wins the race. But story of this game, Derrick Henry. We're getting Tractor Cito early this season. I said this after their game against Seattle about week 2 or week 3. We're getting Tractor Cito very, very early. 3 touchdowns, ripped off a 70-yarder early on. I knew it. I put him in my parlay that he would get over 114 rushing and receiving yards. He did. He broke that by just a couple of yards. But
Just a few.
again, Titans defense still doesn't look good, giving up 31 points potentially for more. But they stopped. Josh Allen slipped on 4th and 1 down in the goal line. But hey, you know what? When you're playing the Bills, kind of like when you play the Chiefs, you're kind of expecting to probably give up 28, 30 points or so. And it's just a matter of can you score more. Tonight, the Titans, or Monday night, the Titans did that. They come off with a win. Now, Joe, if you were the Bills, would you have gone for it, or would you have kicked the field goal to send it into overtime?
I absolutely would have gone for it. I
Oh,
mean, it's who are you going to put your faith in more, Tim? Josh Allen or a kicker?
right.
Or a
Or coin
coin
flip.
flip?
Yeah, eggs. Yeah.
Exactly. Like give me Josh Allen on that 10 times out of 10 with the. I mean, he's huge. It's 4th and 1. He slipped, and the Titans D lineman made a very good play as well. So it was an unfortunate circumstance, but I think that overall it was a definitely a demoralizing win for the Bills that really could have kind of claimed that top spot in the AFC
Hmm.
and kind of put the Titans down back in their place. And they let the Titans get away with one here. The Titans were not the better team, but the Bills let them hang around. I thought that the Titans defense also played a little bit better than, the final score and stats dictated. I mean, that's a really bad Titans defense going up against Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs,
Yeah.
Emmanuel Sanders, and they still held them to what did you say it was 29-31 or
It was they 34-31.
34-31. So, 31 points, but, still, like, throughout the game, I thought that they did a better job at limiting and containing Josh Allen than expected. But, this Bills defense, we thought they were going to be really legit as well, and they just could not stop anything. Julio had one insane catch, by the way.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, love it. AJ Brown played well. You know, Ryan Tannehill, he had a really good game. And when Derrick Henry is going and he can just go off that play action, someone's usually wide open over the middle. And we saw that multiple times. So, he's able to hit that throw, and those guys are able to get yards after the catch. And then, now those linebackers and safeties have to creep back a little bit. And now Derrick Henry takes off again. It's a lethal combination when it's working. And, the Bills defense had no answers. So, tough loss for Buffalo in a game that they definitely should have won.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would have gone for it as well. And I think that's just who we are, being analytical and a little bit younger. My dad was like, nope, I'm old school. You kick the field goal, you go to overtime. But then he would have complained that the other team, when they got on the ball, had that happen. But
Right.
I think you go for it. You have Josh Allen, who's a big physical quarterback, can definitely get 1 yard on a quarterback sneak, much like Tom Brady. He just happened to slip. But also, there's about 15, 16 seconds. They had a timeout. So he gets it. You call a timeout, 13, 14 seconds. That gives you two, maybe even a third play to get a touchdown, get those 2, 3 yards that they needed, and then you kick the field goal. If they went for it
Right.
and there was 3 seconds left, I'd be like, all right, maybe kick the field goal. But had they gotten it, they still had another two, definitely two, maybe a third play to get in the end zone, especially with some of their weapons: Dawson Knox, Stephon Diggs, even with Zach Moss, Devin Singletary in the backfield, Josh Allen. Felt pretty confident that they might have been able to score a touchdown. But hey, they slipped. Titans D line made a great play to make sure that he didn't get up and do whatever, because crazy things happen. But Titans get a much needed win, not only to get back in the divisional race and that conversation, but also, I mean, well, the Bills are winning their division, but should they be tied with another team, this win against the Bills could be huge for potential seeding down the road, whether that's for the division champs or for a wild card spot. But Joe, that's going to wrap up week 6 of the NFL. Yes, you said it. We're halfway to Carson Wentz's magic number of 12. I guess almost. I guess the Colts have a bye probably between now and then, but still we're halfway there in terms
Right.
of the week
Right.
numbers. We got week 7. Very, very, very weak schedule. We'll talk about that with our picks on Saturday. A lot of people are calling it Mageddon for fantasy, because it seems like the Chargers, the Cowboys, the Pat, like there's a bunch of teams that have very important fantasy players on by
Buffalo.
this, Buffalo as well. So week 7 is the bye death week for fantasy and in terms of the matchups as well. But Joe, we got Thursday night football to pick. We got the Denver Broncos going on the road to the Cleveland Browns. As of right now, the Browns are a 1.5 point favorite. The over/under is 41. Case Keenum is starting for the Browns. Maybe a little revenge game for Case Keenum. He played on the Broncos for a little bit of time. Odell seems to be banged up. No running back, no Chubb or Hunt for the Browns. Joe, can the Broncos pull off a road victory? I mean, they don't look that good. But what's your pick? Thoughts and pick?
This is a tough one, Tim. Where'd you say it was again?
It's in Cleveland. It's in Cleveland.
It's in Cleveland. It's tough. I think I'm gonna go with Denver still. It's I can't put a lot of faith in Case Keenum, especially with no strong run game. No Nick Chubb, no Kareem Hunt. It's gonna be Ernest Johnson and Demetric Felton. It's OBJ's banged up. It's going to be Donovan Peoples-Jones and Austin Hooper, and this is a good Broncos defense. So, and if their offensive line isn't even at 100%, I just don't really see the offense being able to do that much. I think it's going to be a very ugly game, but I think the Broncos offense is going to be able to do a little bit more just because they have more healthy pieces there than the Browns do. Although two very good defenses. Going up against not great offenses usually leads to an ugly game. So I think it's could be like a 17-13 type game or something along those lines, unfortunately. But you never know. Case Keenum, he can pull one out of his pocket for
He
sure.
could.
You
He
never
could.
know. Minnesota, he had that one really good year until he came to Philadelphia.
Where Stefanski was his offensive coordinator, so there is
Ooh,
some
rattled,
familiarity.
rattled.
But I'm gonna go with the Broncos as well, Joe. I think we said if Vic Fangio's on
Tim, are
the
you
hot seat.
sure you got?
I'm sure, Joe. Look, hey, here's the thing. I picked the Browns 2 weeks ago against the Chargers. I was like, cool, Joe's going with the Chargers. I'll go with the Browns. Browns lost. We both picked the Browns last week. I am not going to pick them, especially in their current status. I think we said if Vic Fangio is on the hot seat, I think he's going to coach for his life. I think the defense is going to step up. Von Miller said he wants to literally murder the left tackle that he's going up against. So that'll be interesting to watch. But I like the Broncos. I think Teddy doesn't have these turnovers that he had against the Raiders. So I do think Teddy's going to manage the game quite well. I'm going to go with the Broncos in this one, Joe. Look, you're not going to convince me otherwise to go with the Browns. I'm going to go with the Broncos to
It's a
win this
tough
one.
one.
It is.
I think it's
I,
a I think it's a
it's
toss up.
it's going to be like a 13-10. I don't expect much offense here in this one. It might be whoever gets that key strip sack down in field goal range to get some extra points. So I'm going with the Broncos in this one, but we'll see.
We haven't had a Von Miller breakout game in quite some time. It's been a while since he's been in prime time, and we've really seen him make some plays and have some highlights. So he might be due. Going up against his former teammate Case Keenum.
I sure hope he is due as well. But Joe, that's gonna wrap up our Week 6 recap and our Week 7 Thursday Night Football pick. Any final words from you?
Tim, that I think that's all I got, man. Go Eagles. Let's keep these draft picks going. Deshaun Watson, if you get traded to the Dolphins, I swear to God, if you are able to play and you go on a run and you take this away from me, this top 5 pick, I'm gonna be so goddamn pissed. That's
Yeah.
all I got, Tim.
Well,
Back
I
to you.
I would like to see that for sure, just to see you angry. But that'll do it for this episode of the Flea Flicker. If you guys haven't already, hit that thumbs up button to like the video. That's Joey D over there, and I'm Timmy B. Everybody have a great day. We'll see you for our picks. Peace.